Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Ian here, and I'm not here to make a rant or anything like that. Basically, I'm making this video as sort of something for my friend Steve, because he's part of this this kind of Facebook organization, I guess you could call it, where he's like a part of this huge organization of autistic people with Aspergers syndrome. And seeing as how I myself am an Aspies, I would actually sort of give somewhat of a brief summary of my life with the Asperger's condition. It may not be full of conflict or drama or anything like that. I'm going to tell you right now, my life is not the most interesting life in the world. But if this video will help any kids out there who have Asperger's, if it'll help to motivate them or to influence them, then hey, you know, I'd be perfectly willing to sit down and discuss my experience with autism. To basically go back, I believe my mom told me that I wasn't actually diagnosed with Asperger's until I was in 5th grade. And at the time I had no idea what any of that meant. But one thing that I can definitely say for sure is that as a young kid, and still very much today as a young adult, I have always been very socially awkward. It's very hard for me to sort of naturally spark a conversation with other people, you know, without being tempted to talk about the things that I really love, or the things that I just happen to be completely infatuated with, or obsessed with, you know. As a young kid, you know, I was obsessed with dinosaurs, okay? I had like a dozen dinosaur VHS tapes. I had a bunch of dinosaur books. I mean, that's all I ever really cared about as a young kid, you know. I was sort of completely obsessed with dinosaurs, but you know, and then I sort of, you know, started moving on to other things. I started becoming a lot more hyper obsessed with other things, and I believe that's sort of a symptom, I guess you could call it, of this whole mental condition that I have. I'm not exactly sure how accurate that is, but whatever. I'll roll with it for now. But yeah, I'm very socially awkward. I mean, I'm not the type of person that can go out and make friends. Okay, I'm just not that charming. I'm really not very outgoing at all. I tend to be very shy and very solitary and very isolated. I usually kept to myself a whole lot. There were a couple exceptions, you know, and when I was in 1st grade, I tended to be very silent. I tended to be, you know, when I saw something that excited me, that's sort of when I would start, you know, becoming more involved. You know, like I think my 1st grade, there was one time where my 1st grade teacher, she was reading some kind of fantasy book or something that had to do with dragons, because, you know, as a young kid, you know, being obsessed with dinosaurs also sort of led to being very obsessed with dragons and like other sort of similar mythical creatures and whatnot. And so, like, when I would hear my 1st grade teacher, Miss Murray, mention something like that, I would like, oh, okay, you know, you got my attention. And in second grade, I was mostly the same. It wasn't until about like third and fourth grade when I figured out, you know, I was just going through a bunch of sort of attitude phases, because in first and second grade, I was, you know, I mostly did what the teachers wanted me to do. I was very silent. I didn't talk at all. I did what all the teachers wanted me to do. In third and fourth grade, I started to be more like a bad boy. I started to act. I sort of started to act more like I really didn't give out the rules. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I know that for this video I can't really be swearing like that, so I apologize. Right, but anyways, I started not really caring about the rules. I started just trying my hardest to just be, you know, just to be bad. I was trying my hardest, just trying to be very rebellious and, you know, basically being like a class clown and an attention whore and all that stuff. And then I just sort of stopped doing it after a while. You know, in third and fourth grade, you know, whenever a teacher would give me homework or a homework assignment, I usually just didn't, most of the time I just wanted to act like, yeah, go ahead, give me what you want, I don't care, I won't even do it, because I'm bad, you know. Oh, I'm a rebellious, snot-nosed little kid. That's basically the attitude I had. I went through a lot of attitude phases, and I started presenting myself a lot more differently to people, mainly because I just wasn't very confident with myself, and I was very socially insecure. I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing when I was talking to other people. I kept it up when I started going into middle school in the 6th grade, and that's probably when I got into trouble the most. That's undoubtedly the most times I probably ever got into trouble at all was probably in like the 6th grade. You know, I started getting into fights with kids. You know, I even cursed out loud in class. I don't know why I was doing all that. I was just trying to be a bad boy. I was just trying to be a flippant smartass, and I was failing horribly at it because, you know, more people and myself, we all started to realize that that's not really who I am. Like I said, that's even more evident that I was very socially awkward because I just start forcing myself to present myself in like different ways to other people so that maybe they can accept me or something like that. But that's sort of a phase that I think every kid goes through at some point. I actually matured a whole lot when I got into the 7th grade. That's basically when I started thinking, okay, you know what? I reckon I just better grow up and just start, you know, doing whatever the grown-ups tell me to do from now on. That's basically the mindset that I adopted. I'm sorry if I've gotten off topic from the whole Aspergers thing. I apologize for that. If I just started drolling off about my school life or anything like that. But it had, you know, my life in school definitely, the way that I acted in school was definitely affected by my autism a whole lot, because even in 7th grade, when I started to mature a little bit, I wanted to try to be more like a like a cartoon character or something. I was trying to be more. I was, I wore a pair of glasses and I started to act real geeky and really clumsy and really stupid and, but at the same time try to be very lovable and very cute, almost like Clark Kent. I guess you could say. How when Superman is disguised as Clark Kent, he's always he's always bumbling, he's always knocking stuff over, he's always breaking stuff on accident. I'll bet Steve's gonna love that I made a Superman reference. Yeah, but anyways, that's basically the way I acted for a good long while. I acted like basically a geeky, nerdy, nice guy. I was really nice and polite. Probably the way I was supposed to be, but on the inside, in my mind, I was just playing a role or something. I wasn't really being myself, because I was trying way too hard to act like I was clumsy or act like that, to act all cute and adorable, but at the same time be just a complete oaf. Because that's really wasn't the way it was in my mind. So maybe that was due to my autistic way of thinking. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe a whole lot of other kids out there have done it. I'm not too sure. What else was there? Oh yeah. Another thing. Back in fifth grade, when I was diagnosed with Aspergers, I was actually there was a psychiatrist guy that I started seeing, and I saw him pretty much all the way throughout middle school, and pretty much all the way until my freshman year in high school. He was an awesome guy. He was a great guy. Dan, I'm talking about my psychiatrist, Mr. Dan Moore. If you're watching this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for giving me advice the way you did. I know sometimes I was really a pain in the ass with you, but I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate the way that you tried to help me and that you did help me with. So thank you. Right, but anyways, he was, he helped me out. He tried to help me solve a lot of my social problems. He made me do a bunch of social exercises, getting out and becoming and starting to come out of my shell more, starting to become more socially acceptable, starting to become more likable. And it worked a good bit, because throughout my later years in high school, I started coming out a lot more. I started becoming a lot more friendly and a lot more likable. And I made a few more new friends in high school. And for the most part, I changed, but there's still that side to me which is still very awkward, which is I still have problem maintaining conversation with people, because basically sometimes the way I do it is that I'll talk to somebody, I'll say a few things that I want to say, they'll say a few things they want to say, and that's it. I can't think of anything more to say. It's impossible for me to carry on the conversation at all. But there are some real people persons out there who are just really good at doing that. I don't know how. You know, I have a friend who's really good at doing that. I can't possibly understand how, but there are just some people out there who are very charming, who are very witty, and who are able to react quickly enough in a conversation to say something else that would maintain the interesting spark of that conversation. I hope that made sense. As you can see, I'm not very good at talking into a camera myself either. Look at me, I'm rambling on about all kinds of unrelated BS that probably has nothing to do with Aspergers at all. But I'm doing this for my friend Steve because, you know, he's a part of this organization, and I feel like I want to contribute a good deal. What else? And about the whole thing where I mentioned earlier, where I became really hyper obsessive about certain things. That's something about me that I can't really change. It's because when I become really interested in something, it's hard for me to quit thinking about it, you know? Like, I can't remember when exactly I decided that I wanted to go into making movies. I can't, honestly, for the life of me. I think maybe when I was like 11 years old and I was watching a lot of behind-the-scenes documentaries on a lot of the DVDs that I had and that my parents bought me. You know, I would watch a lot of behind-the-scenes documentaries on some of the older movies, on some of the newer movies. I would watch constantly how a lot of the movies we had were made. You know, my dad bought me that large silver King Kong DVD, the 1933 original King Kong DVD, which had like a ton of special features explaining all the different techniques that movie pioneered, the whole techniques of how they would combine a stop motion character or creature and combine it with a real live actor performing and sort of meshing them together, all of which was done by just having one reel that contained all of the moving footage of the stop motion model and simultaneously laying that over the reel that contained the actors acting in a real set, in a real background, and basically synchronizing them both to where they both look like they're reacting in tandem with each other. I learned all of that just by watching that DVD, and I was fascinated with it. And I was eventually fascinated with all kinds of other stuff. You know, there was one time where I was obsessed with Godzilla movies and just countless other Japanese kaiju eiga, daikaiju, tokusatsu type Japanese B movies and Japanese monster movies and stuff like that. You know, there would just be a time where I would just sit on my dad's computer and I would just go to the Toho website and just look up all the different monsters, and I would just look up like biographies, and I would just look up biographies and statistics and just a whole bunch of useless information and trivia about certain characters like Gigan and Gamera and Gilala and Anguirus or Mogura or Mothra or friggin' the Mysterians or Inframan. You know, I loved that stuff. I was just eternally appealed by that kind of stuff. it's mainly the special effects aspect that had me so entranced. You know, if I watch a movie like, say, King Kong, or if I watch a movie like Star Wars, which, you know, or Lord of the Rings, which are all completely laced with spectacular, dazzling special effects, it triggers something inside me that just gets me so excited to the point where I just want to look at even more. That's basically the way that's the reason why I'm such a huge horror movie and monster movie buff. That's why I've seen so many movies and I know so much about all these movies. It's because it's a constant fascination that I've had since I was like 12 or 13 years old. And it's not a fascination that I see going away anytime soon. I want to be a monster movie lover. I want to be just a fun special effects lover until the day I die. I just want to have that little part of my childhood just forever clinging to my subconscious, to my soul. That same curious, childlike, impressionable, naive part of my subconscious persona just clinging to me. Just still wanting to learn and explore and experience more. I sound like I'm reading Peter Pan or something. I want to be a kid forever. You know, that kind of thing. But it's true though. In a sense, I don't really, as far as that part of my personality goes, I don't ever want to grow up. Even if I grow into an old man, I don't want to, you know, at heart, I still want to remain a fun-loving, curious, naive little kid at heart, mostly. I got nothing. I think I've said all I've wanted to say. I think I said all I wanted to say. I reckon I should close this video. For any autistic people who may be watching this, any people with Aspergers, this may not have been the best video ever, but I did it with all the love and sincerity I could possibly muster up. And I do want this video to be available to all other kids out there who sort of doubt themselves, who feel like they're completely isolated from their peers because of their autism. I just want to tell you that you're not really alone, that there are dozens of other kids out there who feel the same way that you do. I feel the same way that you do. I've had to deal with stuff like depression and thoughts of suicide and constant abuse and bullying. I've had to put up with that. I've had to put up with that crap for a while throughout my whole life, almost, and you know, very much to the point where I'm completely almost numb to it. But simply because, and I think I share this trait also with Steve, and that, you know, the reason why Steve loves comic books so much is that the characters inspire him to. The characters in those comics just really inspire him to feel more comfortable and to feel a lot more better for himself. To actually be confident enough to walk into the world and accept himself and spread his self-acceptance onto others that he meets. For for example, when I say that characters like Batman and Green Arrow have influenced me as a person, I'm not kidding about that. I think every superhero completely represents the best part of a human being. As I was saying, I think the thing about every superhero, every sort of well-known superhero, or at least, you know, most superheroes that are well known to me, maybe a few other people. But I think in a sense every superhero type character ever made represents the best part of humanity. Well, I guess characters like the Punisher, Wolverine, Deadpool, characters like that, those are kind of the exceptions. Well, maybe not so much Wolverine, but the Punisher and Deadpool, and maybe a little bit Spawn. Well, no, not Spawn. Any character created by Rob Liefeld, but no, basically, I think Steve said this best in his video. Characters like, characters like Batman, you know, who represent the whole. To me, they represent, never giving up, constantly maintaining your moral integrity, never allowing any outside force to corrupt you or to make you betray your own personal moral standards. Characters like Superman, who are all about helping people and being nice and courteous, and being selfless. Characters like Green Arrow, who to me, as I've said before, Green Arrow to me represents sticking up for people less fortunate than you, doing something to participate in any type of organization to help disabled people of any kind, which is almost kind of what I'm doing right now with this video. Yeah, basically standing up for the little guy. To me, that's what Green Arrow is all about. You know, characters like Wonder Woman are about peace, basically. I think I can sort of compare Wonder Woman. If I had to compare her ideals and her morals, I would probably compare her to me, Wonder Woman sort of represents an oppressed minority which is trying to prove their greatness to those that oppress them, like women, or like, say, black people or Mexican people, or, you know, minorities that are basically looked down upon by regular, like, rich white American people. You know what I mean? And basically proving that, hey, yeah, you know, just because we're women and that we belong in a group that is viewed as being inferior doesn't mean that we can't be as strong or as successful or as independent as men, or as, you know, the regular mail book staple 1950s personification of perfect white men. That's mostly how I viewed the standards of someone like Wonder Woman. But, you know, you could take any superhero and apply them to any type of good aspect of any real life person. You know, if you go in and you look for something with a certain character, like, say, the Flash, or Spider-Man, or Deadman, or the Spectre, or Hawkman, or Shadowhawk, or any other superhero characters, or Spawn, there's a good chance you may find you will find some good moral real life lessons in their source material. The ultimate message I'm trying to say here is that I don't know what to say. If you're autistic and you have very little confidence with yourself, then I don't know. I would say see a doctor, but that just sounds so mean. That sounds really mean. I don't want to say see a doctor because you're retarded or sick or you belong in a mental hospital. I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm just trying to say that, if you have problems, if you have mental problems, problems with depression or anything like that, then, go out, maybe see a psychiatrist or something. I don't know. Just remember that there are people out there who do appreciate you for who you are. And you know what? Maybe someday somebody will come up to you and will see past your flaws and just see you for who you are. I've had a couple of friends who have done that for me. But yeah, that's all I have to say on the subject. All of you watching, I hope this video hasn't gone on too long, but I hope that this has proved kind of informative for some of the non-Aspies out there. If they're, like I said, if they're young autistic kids watching this, then I hope this has been inspirational in some way. But yeah, that's all I got. I hope you all enjoyed it. That's basically my life with Aspergers. So, I'll see you all later.